I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. Final game of the week was against the Philadelphia 76ers. And man, what a game it was. We're going to be going over this game with our quarter notes, also getting into the box score and the team stats. And if you are watching live on YouTube and you want to drop a comment about tonight's game against the Philadelphia 76ers or just talk about how the Pistons clinched the number one seed, definitely leave it down below in the comment section below, and we'll get to that when we do our Q&A open forum to end the podcast. But let's get into these quarter notes with tonight's post-game show against the Philadelphia 76ers. So to start this game, I really like the way that the Detroit Pistons were getting into their sets in the half court. The ball was just moving really well tonight. Danish Jenkins had a hell of a game. If you guys were watching tonight, finished the game with 14 assists, I believe, off the top of my head from what I heard on the broadcast. But he looked really good out there. But very early on, we were just kind of exchanging baskets with Paul George. Paul George still looks like he's on PEDs. Like, I'm not joking. Try to test that, man. I haven't seen Paul George look that good in maybe 3 or 4 years. I'm joking, but Pistons did take a timeout after they were up by 1 point, 14-13, midway through the first quarter. And the Pistons' hustle just on the offensive glass was excellent. Just having second chance points and just really out hustling Andre Drummond and other front court players out there. And Danish Jenkins and Jalen Duren were excellent. They had excellent quarters to really help the Detroit Pistons get out to a pretty good lead after one. Nick Nurse had to take a timeout after Ron Holland had a very easy transition bucket. It was 29-23. And the bench unit came in and really provided that spark that we've come to know all year, whether it was Karis LeVert, Paul Reed doing his thing. They dropped 41 points in 12 minutes, you guys. 41-31 was the score after 12 minutes of play. So the Sixers go on an 11-2 run to enter the second quarter within the first 4 minutes. JB took a timeout, so that, small lead that they did have by 10 dwindled down to 2. It was 47-45. And Philly played zone defense majority of this game. It did work at times for them. Paul Reed just scored some timely buckets for the Pistons. They were able to get out to a little 4-point lead. Then Danish Jenkins decided, I'm going to be more aggressive scoring the basketball. And then the final 4 minutes of the second quarter, the Pistons went on a 15-4 run, and they were able to have an 11-point lead at halftime. And they dropped 70 points on the Philadelphia 76ers in 24 minutes of action. So it was 71-60 after 2 quarters of play in this one. Coming out of halftime, Philly started the quarter much like they did the second quarter. They go on this little run, so it was a little 7-2 run. But the Pistons answered back on their own runs with Danish Jenkins and Jalen Duren. And the defense in the third quarter was excellent. We've talked in previous post-game podcasts. I don't know what is said in these halftime locker rooms. Again, I would love to be a fly on the wall, but the defense that they played coming out of halftime had Philly scoreless for over 4.5 minutes. They did not even make a field goal. And the Pistons surged, and they were up 88-69 after Philly took a timeout. Philly did go on a 9-0 run midway through the third, but the Pistons were able to keep their lead pretty substantial. It was 95-81 at the 3 quarters of play, and that third quarter was just excellent defensively. Even when we were going through our lows a little bit towards the end of the third quarter, they were still able to make a lot of the shots that Philly were taking extremely difficult. Going into the fourth quarter, the Pistons did struggle to shoot the ball. And then Kevin Huerter made a 3, and things started flowing a little bit better. But the defense really helped the Pistons stay into this game. They were holding off the 76ers. And the offense did pick up midway through the quarter, but they were able to finish this week 3-1. And your only loss this week was to OKC. And that was without 4 of your starters. Nassar was the only player that started in that game. So you looked at the schedule this week. You had a back-to-back OKC Toronto. You go to Minnesota, you take care of Minnesota at home, and then you go on the road with Philly, and you're able to, finish this week 3-1, and you clinch the number one seed. It's the first time since 2006-7 that you clinch the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. So, really good week by the Detroit Pistons. That marks 57 wins. Can they get to 60? Can the Pistons get to 60? You have a few games left in the season. That would be a really cool accomplishment if the Pistons can get the 60 wins. Now, they might just rest their starters after clinching the number one seed. I really don't know what they're going to do next week. I believe you have Orlando on Monday. Then you have Milwaukee. I think their final home game on Wednesday. I don't have the schedule pulled up in front of me. Then you have I think Indiana and then Charlotte. So, I mean, you have actually a pretty good opportunity to see some play-in teams possibly. Orlando could be in that play-in picture. Charlotte could be in that play-in picture. So I think it's actually a pretty good opportunity to see some teams that you might actually see in the first round. Again, I don't know if they're going to be resting their starters or not, but if they could get the 60 wins, I think it would be a hell of an accomplishment considering they lost 68 games 2 years ago. Going from 68 losses to 60 wins apparently has never been done in NBA history, they said on the FanDuel broadcast. So that would actually be a pretty cool accomplishment for a team that went through all that losing that they did 2 years ago, under Monty Williams. And just gonna have to applaud the job that JB Bickerstaff has done coaching and Trajan Langdon for just making complimentary free agent signings from last year and to this year. And, some of the additions to the trade deadline he's done back-to-back years with Dennis Schroeder and Kevin Huerter. But we're going to get into the box score, and then we'll open up the show to any comments and questions if you guys have any. If not, we'll just have a short podcast. So let's get into the box score with the starting unit. We'll start with Tobias Harris like we usually do. 27 minutes, 19 points, led the Pistons in scoring. He was 7 out of 13 from the field, 1 out of 3 from 3, 4 for 4 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 turnover, 4 steals. He finished with a plus 26 in the plus minus. And all those boos probably don't mean anything to Tobias Harris because he just beat his former team again and dropped 19 points. So shout out to Tobias Harris tonight. Duncan Robinson in 23 minutes dropped 11 points. He had a pretty efficient game from the field, 4 out of 7 from the field, 3 out of 6 from 3, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, finished the game with a plus 27 and the plus minus. Jalen Duren in 30 minutes dropped 16 points. He was 5 out of 8 from the field, 6 out of 7 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover, finished the game with a plus 15. Sar Thompson in 25 minutes dropped 14 points. He was 7 out of 11 from the field, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 turnovers, 3 steals, 1 block, finished with a plus 27. The one thing about Asar tonight is a lot of his cuts, and he had a lob connection again with Danish Jenkins. Get more comfortable just playing in those half-court sets, and I've seen a little bit more of aggression from him on the offensive end of the floor these past couple of games, and you love to see that as we get closer to the NBA playoffs. Danish Jenkins, man, what a game by this kid. Double-double tonight, 32 minutes, 16 points. Shot 4 out of 11 from the field, 2 out of 5 from 3, 6 out of 7 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 14, count them, 14 assists with only 1 turnover, 1 steal, 1 block, plus 25. Now, this could just be me being very observant, but the last time Danish Jenkins started, I should say was in the starting lineup, against Tyrese Maxey, he had one of his better games. Again tonight, 16 and 14. That's a hell of a game by Danish Jenkins. He's getting more confident each and every game. I know a lot of you guys have mentioned in our post-game podcast, like Cade's injury and Stu's injury have kind of been blessings in disguise because it's giving players like a Danish Jenkins opportunity to get more confident within the system and get him those extra reps that maybe he wouldn't ordinarily get with Cade Cunningham being healthy. 14 assists on 1 turnover is just excellent, man. So shout out to Danish Jenkins and Tobias Harris and everyone that played tonight. Getting to the bench with this box score. So Paul Reed, another former Philadelphia 76er, 18 minutes off the bench for him, 10 points, 4 out of 5 from the field, 0 for 1 from 3, 2 out of 4 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 1 turnover, 2 steals, 1 block. He was a plus 8. Ron Holland in 20 minutes scored 11 points. He was 4 out of 10 from the field, 2 out of 3 from 3, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block. He finished the game with a -1 in the plus minus. Javonte Green only played 6 minutes, scored 2 points, 1 rebound. He was a -9. Karis LeVert finished with 21 minutes. He had 7 points where he shot 50% from the field, 3 out of 6 from 3, 1 for 2 from 3, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover. Finished the game with a -3. Kevin Huerter in 25 minutes probably had one of his more underwhelming offensive games. He had 5 points. He was 2 out of 9 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3, but still rebounded the ball pretty well. 5 rebounds, 6 assists on 2 turnovers. Finished the game with a -4. Marcus Sasser in 11 minutes dropped 5 points. He was 2 out of 4 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. Finished the game with a +5. Jazz Lanier got some garbage time towards the end in 2 minutes and was able to attempt 1 3-point shot, which was in the corner, and he finished the game with the -1. And the only DMP tonight was two-way player Tolu Smith. So, kind of just looking at this box score with the Pistons tonight, you can see the balanced scoring. You can just see them playing together as a team, and it was excellent out there. As we kind of get into the team stats, you guys, going over this game a little bit more in depth. So the Pistons shot a better percentage from the field. They shot 49 to Philly's 44. The Pistons made 43 out of 87 field goal attempts. Philly made 35 out of 79 field goal attempts. Pistons shot a pretty good percentage from 3 too. They were 11 out of 28, making 39% of their threes. Philly was 8 out of 29, only making 28% of their threes. Pistons and Philly both shot 79% from the free throw line. Pistons made 19 out of 24 attempts. Philly made 15 out of 19 attempts. Pistons out-rebounded Philly 45 to 33, and they were able to cash in on 16 big offensive rebounds. They were really crashing the offensive glass hard. Assists for the Pistons, 33 assists to Philly 17. The ball was really moving. It has been moving a lot. Just kind of love the way that they're getting into their half-court sets and just moving the ball. It's not sticking whatsoever. They've been one of the better teams over the past 2 weeks of just, sharing the basketball and being a high assist team, and you love to see that. They have 12 steals to Philly's 8, 4 blocks to Philly's 2, only had 12 turnovers. Excellent game of taking care of the basketball. Philly had 3 more with 15. If you kind of look of points conceded off turnovers, Pistons had 12, Philly had 18. Fast break points, Pistons had opportunities to run tonight, and they beat Philly by 10, 22 to 12. And then points in the paint, Pistons beat Philly by 10, 54 to 44. And then fouls for each team. Philly had 17, Pistons had 15. Largest lead, Pistons were up 26 in this one at one point. And then Philly had a 2-point lead very early on, but really good basketball game by the Detroit Pistons in this one. Their level of focus, I would say, over the past 2 weeks has been really good. It's been really pleasing to watch as a Piston fan as we do get closer to the playoffs. You want your team finishing off the regular season strong because you want that confidence being at an all-time high. And even when you were listening to the broadcast at the end of the game, you got Jalen Duren saying, 2 years ago they laughed at us. Now we just locked up the number 1 seed. Sar Thompson's pleading for Jalen Duren to be, first team All-NBA. Jalen Duren's pleading for the voters to vote Sar Thompson for Defensive Player of the Year. Don't know about the Defensive Player of the Year. I feel like a lot of people are going to vote Wemby, but it's our bare minimum is going to be first team all defense, my personal opinion. And I think you could make a case for Jalen Duren to make an all-NBA team. Third team all-NBA, in my personal opinion, is like a bare minimum for Jalen Duren. I think he's been one of the better players, if not a top 15 player in the NBA, especially since All-Star break, and probably the past like 2 weeks, he's really upped it with Cade Cunningham being out. He's really upped his game of being that number one option, that leader on the court. But been really impressed with this team and really proud of this team. But I do want to get into a couple of comments on YouTube right now. And Richard's going to get both of the comments because he's the only one commenting right now. He says, to me, it was an up and down game, but the Pistons coming out of half decided to put the game away. Now they have the conference and they can rest some of their players for the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, the game was kind of weird because like they start the first quarter, Richard. They got a 10-point lead. Philly goes on that run, and the Pistons kind of go on the run towards the end of the second quarter. And I've mentioned it, like, I don't know what is said in halftime speeches or locker rooms, but they just come out and they just punch first. They just punch first. But you just love the effort tonight. You love them being able to close this out and clinch that number one seed. And they might rest their players. You could be right. They might just rest their starters and say, we want our starters, fresh for the playoffs. What JB Bickerstaff said makes me kind of think otherwise, talking with the media after the game, saying he wants them to be in a good flow because they will have some time off because they did finish with the number one seed, and the number one seed does get to kind of wait until what does happen with the play-in tournament and who wins that to have the opportunity to play the number one seed. So they might not shut down the starters right away, Richard. It might actually be maybe the final 2 or 3 games of the season. They may look to possibly shut them down, but it'll be interesting to see if they try to aim for 60, if the starters are shut down earlier than what JB said. But JB is pretty true to his word. He doesn't really go back on his word in press conferences. So knowing him, he's probably going to try to get these guys at least a good 20 minutes of action and maybe just, give some more runs to guys like a Chaz Lanier, a Tolu Smith. Maybe you see what you have down in the Motor City Cruise with Jaden Atkins for, the last week of the season. Who knows? I'm just really happy that they had a strong week and they were able to lock up the number one seed. But I don't really see any other comments, but I appreciate you guys watching this post-game podcast. Again, the Detroit Pistons win this one 116-93. They lock up the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, something they haven't done since 2006-07 season. But hell of a game, hell of a week by the Pistons. They play a couple of times next week. I do want to give you guys a PSA before we do hang up this podcast. I will be doing post-game podcast. I won't be doing a post-game podcast on Wednesday. Don't know if I've shared this on podcast with you guys, but I got a really cool DM by the Detroit Pistons. They invited me out for their fan appreciation night. I'm going to be going down to that. Obviously, I will be, taking pictures and getting content for you guys and kind of the sharing of the experience. And putting it on this YouTube channel. But that game will be against the Milwaukee Bucks. So really happy to go to that game and meet some Pistons fans, meet some friends, like meet up with Sean and Eric and other people down there. But again, I appreciate you guys tapping in to these post game podcasts all season long. Hope you guys are staying safe. Take care, and as always, go Pistons. Peace.